Are you unsure if you have a story worth telling? Well, we're here to let you know whether you are a professional aiming to inspire or just someone wanting to connect on a deeper level, your story has the power to make a significant impact. So, today we're going to talk about your story matters and how you can share your story and change the world. Welcome, Suzanne, to another. What are we going to call these? We're going to call these sit downs, we're going to call them installments.
I think it's like our version of a fireside chat. I don't know.
Yeah, I like that. I think I'm going to go with the fireside chat.
I don't have a fireside, but all right.
So, how are you today?
I am good. I'm super excited for this particular topic because it can change the game for so many people out there who often say, "Well, I don't have a story." And I get that all the time. Suzanne, I don't have a story. I mean, I just got that from someone on social media who sent me a message and said, "But I don't have a story." And I checked that everybody has a story.
Yeah, yeah, and it's one of those things because I remember when we first started working together, I was one of those persons that always said too, like, I don't have a story, like
Mhm.
I haven't experienced, that catastrophic event. So one of the stories that come to mind is the team that was traveling and they were on a plane and they got stuck in the Andes and eventually they had to turn to cannibalism to survive. And when I take a look at the stuff that's going on in my life, I pale in comparison to that stuff. So like nobody wants to hear, any of my stories. They're not
Well,
exciting. So
I'm grateful that I pale and I don't have that kind of story because that's pretty harrowing. And you're so right because I think the we when we think of stories, we think of individuals who have been known for their life altering stories. Their surviving plane crashes, um, diseases that have left them in a certain state. Like they're huge, massive stories that the media talks about. We see them interviewed on TV. We see movies made. So when we think about our lives, we're like, I don't have anything like that. However, you don't need anything like that. That's the cool thing.
ooh, yeah, so I'm super excited that we get a chance to sit in and unpack this topic today. So before we jump into it, I just want to take a minute to welcome everyone onto our fireside chat. This is what we're going to call it. And so we're going to be doing or having a series of these conversations leading up to our Unleash the Power of Your Story Live Masterclass, which is happening on Thursday, May the 16th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so, whether you are catching the video now or you're coming back and catching it on the replay, we have made it super easy for you. The link is in the description if you have not reserved your seat as yet. So, you want to make sure that you take a moment to do that. So, as you tune in and you join us, we would love to know where you are watching from. So, do us a favor, go ahead, drop your city and state where you're watching from. Also, take a minute to share with us who you serve in your business and how you serve in your business. Because guess what? If you don't tell us, we won't know. So we definitely want to hear from you. And then I also want to take a minute to shout out all of our members in our Super Achievers for Storytelling for Super Achievers community, our new members who are coming in. I definitely am watching all of the questions, all of the responses. And so, our goal over the next week and a half or so is to take the questions and the concerns, the things that are coming up for our super achievers in our community and answer those questions while we're doing our fireside chat. And then also take a moment if this topic resonated with you, go ahead and share this live out to another super achiever who can benefit from it. And so let me know in the comments if you are ready to transform your storytelling. So if you're ready to transform your storytelling, just go ahead and drop a yes into the comment and let us know. And then we are going to get this party bus rolling. So we started at the top, Suzanne, talking about a lot of times how we do feel like we don't have that huge story to tell.
Hmm.
It's one of the things, like I said, you work with me around that, because I that was one of the things I have to say that also prevented me from seeing myself as a speaker. And so as I looked at some of the greats like Lisa Nichols and Les Brown, and I listened to them on stage, they have these compelling stories, these life altering events, and how they overcame, and everything that just left me awe-inspired. And one of the things that I did was look at my life, and I say, wow, I don't have anything like that at all to share. And so you
Hmm.
kind of shifted that for me. So I'm going to turn it over to you so you could share with our super achievers.
Well, I think the first thing I want to say when you listen to a Lisa Nichols stories or a Les Brown stories, it has a lot to do with how they tell the story. Because when you really look at the details, their
Mm,
stories are quite common. And I
mm,
mean common in terms of how many women have experienced some form of domestic violence and verbal abuse in relationships that just weren't going well. How many people? That's
mhm,
a common theme. How many people in our world have experienced some sort of lack of ability or ability that puts you in a group where you feel other? And so we're talking Les Brown's story, we're talking Lisa Nichols' story. Now, when I put it like that, it sounds like, well, yeah, we've all had that happen. However, how they have been able to tell the story makes it feel kind of larger than life, and it's how they express it and the details that are in it. But when you really pare it down, it's a common theme,
mhm,
right? So I think that's the first thing I want to put on the table. And when I started studying story, there are certain world themes, world views that almost every story falls into,
yeah,
right? There is the love story, there is the betrayal story, there is the coming of age story, there is the loss of something you love story. There is that story that has you sit in shame and embarrassment because you feel less than. There's all these types of stories. Now, when you think about it, we all have those experiences in our life. The
mhm,
question is, how do you wrap a story around it?
mhm. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And it's so true, because I like how you said that these things are, ordinary things. They're everyday things. And I know in working with you, you always challenge me to think of the story. So whenever we write, whenever we do content or we produce for our influencers journey show, you always say, what's the story that's going to bring this content to life? What's the context that we need to frame this around? And I love when you say to me that people don't live in big events. And so it's the small everyday things that we need to learn to pull from.
That's such a great point. I really want to sit right there for a moment, because when we think of stories, we think of big catastrophic events. And
Mhm.
I want to say to you, think everyday events, because this is the thing. We're not talking when you're thinking of a business or you're thinking of touching a life, you're talking about average ordinary people living day-to-day lives like me and you. And so when you think about that, in those day-to-day lives, people feel isolated, people feel alone, people feel less than, people think that this thing is only happening to me. People are going around thinking, what's wrong with me? Why can't I achieve this? We have these conversations going on in our head. And unfortunately, we have these conversations going on in our head around average struggles. So
Right.
I remember when my finances wasn't where I wanted them to be, I was totally financially upside down. It was everything to me. My life was consumed by lack of finances. I was embarrassed. I felt ashamed. I didn't want to talk about it. Um, but the minute someone opened me up and talked about it with me,
Yeah.
I felt relief.
Mm,
And so I'm highlighting that because that's what stories do. Is stories take events that are happening in our world and allow us to share the impact, how we felt, the journey of getting through this with an audience. And what happens for that audience is there's people sitting there going, me too. That's
mhm,
what's happening for me. I've been there. Oh my gosh, you're telling my story. And in that, what begins to happen is the listener, the audience feels less isolated.
yeah.
The audience feels less alone. The audience feels like, oh, there's someone else going through this as well. And that's the power of story. And there's a reason that we love stories, right? And there's a reason that we love movies. And if you think about it, almost every movie that we watch, yes, they embellish and it becomes larger than life, but the theme is simple all the
Mm,
time. The
mm,
theme is always simple, right? I need money. I'm going to find a way to get money. I want love. I'm going to find a way to get love. Somebody betrayed me. I'm going to get back at them. Somebody betrayed me. I'm going to get justice. Those are life themes.
yeah.
And so I think we think of the story as having to be massive, but at the core, the stories are always very simple.
Mhm.
The question is, how do you tell it?
Yeah. Yeah, and so and that's another great point because I'm going to say this. I have had the opportunity to experience even attending events and listening to a speaker on stage share their story, and I have to be totally honest about this one, asking myself, oh my goodness, why did they, share this particular story, and I found myself kind of struggling to bring things together on in my mind, like why this story, because of course the story didn't endear me to the speaker, or if anything it left me more confused or probably feeling bad. So can you speak a little bit more to that for any of our super achievers out there who has either experienced that either on both ends, whether they were the person sharing the story or they had to be part of the audience and hear the story and was left with that feeling.
Yeah, you know, it's we there's the term now being used about gaslighting and
Mm,
using vulnerability as a almost like a weapon, right? A
mhm,
way to unstable people. That is not what we're talking about. So when we're talking about sharing a story, because the perfect story to share that leads people on a journey is just like in a movie. There's a challenge.
mm,
There's a challenge that you're going through or have gone through or you supported someone through, and it is difficult, it is challenging, it stretches you, and oftentimes you don't know what to do. So what makes a great story is a story where you have a challenge and then you have a place where you are so feeling cornered, if you will, that you need an answer. And in that need for an answer, you have what we call an epiphany, an aha moment. How many of you listening have had your back against the wall, didn't know what to do, and then had that aha moment? And that aha moment might come because you're seeking information. So you read a book, you took a
mhm,
course, you sat down with a friend and they gave you a little shake and gave you a bit of a talking to. You hired a coach, whatever it is, you have that aha moment. Well, in that aha moment, often when we examine it and we stop feeling sorry for ourselves, we stop sitting in overwhelmed and poor me, there are lessons that we were meant to learn. There were lessons that were designed to change our lives. And from that, we have a transformation. And the way we looked at something when we started the story and the way we looked at it at the end of the story is totally different. And you go through that change. Now, that's the perfect story to tell. Unfortunately, oftentimes people tell the story of how I was wronged,
mm,
how this thing happened, or they go into so much details about some traumatic experience that the audience is left traumatized and going, I'm not sure what to do. There's a way to tell the story where you take someone on a clearly guided journey that has them actually step into your story, go on the journey with you, cheer for you, want to know what you're going to do, sit in the lessons with you, and also identify with the lessons, and then go, oh my goodness, I see what you saw. I know why you're different. I know why you're having success right now. Those are the stories we're looking for. I call them stories of transformation and change. And and to learn how to tell that story, one is you're telling your story, not someone else's. And
Mhm.
two, you're taking responsibility for your failure, your mess up, your lessons, your learns. It's all about what you needed to know and how you needed to grow. And for a lot of people, that's like, ooh, right? Because when we think of stories, we think of looking outside ourselves at times. This is a very introspective and self reflective dialogue with the audience where you're sharing a journey that you went on that changed you and made you better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, it's absolutely a game changer because having been able to go through the Unleash the Power of Your Story program myself as a student, it gave me the opportunity to take a look at experiences in a different light. And so,
Mhm.
one of the biggest things that I've learned coming through the program is that we have these experiences, but in order for us first to learn from the experience, we first have to do what you're saying. We have to be able to stop feeling sorry for ourselves and throw the pity party, lots of wine while you're whining, and all of that fun stuff. And then come out of it, have your aha moment, and then start to put together your lessons. And for me, when I started to do that type of work, I noticed things shifted not only in my life, but it shifted in my business. It allowed me to be able to attract more of the people that I desire to work with, which I call my divine clients. It gave me the opportunity to even share, like I said, content in our writing to bring things alive, to bring the points that I want to get across to my audience, to my students in my program. And so it's definitely powerful. So I'm just going to say this for our super achievers who are being held back because like I said, I know for myself, like I've said for years that I'm not a speaker. I was that person that
Mhm.
resisted it, but it is absolutely the most powerful tool as an entrepreneur, as a coach, as an aspiring speaker, your author, even if you're a course creator out there, you have to be able to know how to utilize the skill of storytelling and also speaking. So even if you don't consider yourself speaking on big stages, you always have an audience. Okay. And so I'm just going to say for our super achievers who know that this is your next step, you want to make sure that you take advantage of the opportunity that Suzanne and I have laid out for you and join us on the free masterclass. And it's coming up it's coming up Thursday, May the 16th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can actually grab the link in the description of the video, but I'm also going to run it across the screen as well. So I know you were teeing up to just say something else. I'll go ahead and let you have it.
Absolutely. And I think I want to talk about the whole concept of I'm not a speaker, and I live behind I'm not a speaker and sat in the back of the room and hid out. And came to the realization that we're all speakers.
Mm,
And also came to the realization that speaking is the number one skill of all successful entrepreneurs, people, business people, teachers, coaches, that sort of thing. So it is, whether you're speaking to one person or whether you're speaking to a group of people, your goal is to move and inspire them, to influence them to take the action that you desire. And one of the things that makes storytelling so powerful when it comes to this is that, let me put it this way. How many of you have had an interaction with a teacher, a coach, and as they were sharing, you were like, I don't even know if you've ever done this, because you feel like they're in theory,
Yeah,
right? They're regurgitating great information that they got from a book, but you're questioning, do you have lived
right.
experience? The beautiful thing about a story is not only does it share your journey, but it exposes your lived experience, and your lived experience around not just the good stuff, but
Mhm.
what it took for you to grow into the person you are, what challenges you had to overcome in order to create the success you wanted, all the things that you needed to learn and do in order to become more. And you know, it really just answers, who was I required to become to claim the success that I'm experiencing today? What does that give for the audience? It says to the audience that I am a credible guide. I'm a person that can guide you from where you are stuck to where you are and want to go. And you know, it's interesting because I got an opportunity to speak at an event for 2 minutes, really. I told a brief story, and people started coming up to me going, I want to know more. I want to know more about you and what you do. And part of it was my story gave them a glimpse into my journey and a glimpse into my learns. And instantly people became curious. They didn't know what I did exactly. They didn't know what my profession or what I was offering. However, they had enough curiosity to say, I want to know more about you and I want to know more about what you do. That's the power of storytelling.
All right. So as we bring this fireside chat to an end, are there any last minute words that you want to share with our super achievers?
Yeah, most definitely, because I still think that there's probably people sitting out there going, "No, Suzanne, I don't have a story. I live a small life. I don't like to go out and stand in front of people." And I want to say this to you. Have you ever tried to inspire a child? But we don't
Mm.
inspire a child by great content. We inspire a child by great stories,
Right.
right? We are all children at heart. And there is a reason that storytelling is the oldest art on the planet. And no matter where we live on the planet, information is passed on through stories. You know, the best storyteller, the guy of all the proverbs and all the tales, Jesus, he taught in parables and stories. If you look at great speakers, they teach in parables and stories, and not always to a crowd. Sometimes it's to one on one. Why am I using the analogy of a child? Because children are emotional bundles, aren't they? They're just bundles of emotion, all excited about life, and they're not all caught in their head and give me good content. They're just emotional bundles. I'm going to say to you, at the heart of things, if you want to move us, you got to get to that emotional bundle inside us. And you got to move that place, because that place gets us open and interested in listening and learning more about your great content. So that's what I want to leave for everybody with.
Wow. I love that. We're all emotional bundles. You can see that in Well, thank you, super achievers. Those of you who tuned in and was able to catch us live, and if you're coming back and catching us on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay below the video. If you have any questions about anything that we've shared on the video today, don't be shy. Just drop your questions in the comment section of the video. Or if anything is coming up for you in the way of speaking and storytelling, or maybe you have a burning question that you would like for Suzanne and I to answer while we're doing our fireside chats, we welcome it all. And so, with that being said, take care, super achievers, and we will be back here tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
All right, everyone, take care.
Bye bye.